Good evening, ladies and gents. It's Jacob on the one up top, joining you on an abnormal time, which is on a Friday night. Normally, I'm waiting for my kids to arrive or I'm out with friends, but nobody wants me today. No friends, no kids. But fortunately, well, depends how you look at it. Fortunately or unfortunately, one people that want me is Tottenham Hotspur. Tonight we are away to Nottingham Forest, and I'll go to the lineups first. So I'll introduce the host first, which is Nottingham Forest. The lineups are just out. So it looks like Forest have gone to a back three or back five, however you want to look at it. So they've got Turner in goal, Willy Bolly, Murillo, and I don't know how you say this name, Ian Kate. Centre halves, Williams and Toffolu fullbacks, Yates, Mangala and Kouyaté midfield, Elanga and Gibbs-White up front. And for the boys, we're unchanged. Vicario in goal, Pedro Porro and Adoji fullbacks, Davis and Romero centre halves, Basuma, Sarr, Johnson, Kulusevski and Son occupying the three behind Richarlison. If I speak about the host first, sort of, as I normally do, they are on a bad run. It goes without saying. If Nottingham Forest are beaten convincingly today, not to say that it puts Steve Cooper in a sackable position. Most managers it would, but he's got the fans on song and he's done a remarkable job to get them in the Premier League in the first place. So he's probably got a bit of credit. However, as the game's going on, the less time you get wins, the likelihood these owners make changes. I think he's a good manager. He turned it around last season when everyone thought they were dead and buried, and he managed to pull that one out of the bag. But it's interesting because they do miss their main striker in Onyiri. If you told me a few weeks ago that Aurier Onyiri ain't going to be in the team, I'd be happy with that because he was causing problems. He's played against Arsenal, Man United, and caused them problems this season. And Aurier is obviously ex-Tottenham. He'd probably turn up and score a wonder goal against us. He scored a couple of goals for us, to be fair. And we all thought he was the worst right back in the world until we brought in another three that were probably worse than him. But yeah, it's an interesting one because even though they've got Elanga and Gibbs-White up front, which is a bit more of a fluidity up top, effectively attacking options, they got better attacking options than us. They've got Origi to come on, Chris Wood. He's better than what we got because on our bench we've only got Velez, who's still an unknown quantity. Again with Jamie Donnelly, Brian Hill doesn't really do it for me. So going forward, if it's a tight game and they've got better options than we have, they're going to keep it tight. I just watched the pre-match words from Steve Cooper. And he respects that we're an attacking side that love to go forwards. However, we've got to just play our game. If they stifle us, I will worry because I feel that if it's sort of 0-0 or 1-0 with a few minutes to go, could cause some major problems. But we just have to do what we've been doing week in, week out, apart from when we played Wolves, and just take our chances. Because I think that's the problem that we've got. There's been games where we've absolutely dominated, but we haven't took our chances. When you're looking at the Premier League stats, we're top for chances created and XG, but we're 7th in chances converted. So that tells you everything. If we were in the top 3 for chances converted, we'd probably still be top of the league. But yeah, it's one of those where it's going to be an interesting game. I feel that it could be quite cagey. If we don't score in the first 20 minutes, Nottingham Forest will gain confidence as they go along. Funnily enough, Tottenham and Nottingham Forest are renowned in this season anyway for for scoring early. So it'd be an interesting game. Stats always go out the window in games, if you ask me. But yeah, it's an interesting watch. We've got to win this game because there's no point in beating Newcastle the way we did last game, to then go to Nottingham Forest and lose. Because if I'm honest, I expected it to be the other way around. I expected us to maybe lose to Newcastle and get a result at Forest. So it's pointless. If we're going to try and get into the Champions League spots, we've got to win a game like tonight. And if we do win, granted, City are probably going to be in a different trajectory, but we need to win this game and go equal on points with them, and sit back for the rest of the weekend and watch the rest of the results unfold. So I want to do my prediction. If I go with my head, I'm going to go with a cagey 2-2. I just think Nottingham Forest might, even, when they see the stat that they haven't scored many from set pieces, this would be the game where they score 2 from that. So I've got a feeling it'll be a 2-2. It'll just be one of those where, again, we won't take our chances. But if I'm going to go with my chest, 3-1 Tottenham. Brennan Johnson to score at his old stomping ground where him and his dad had great times. And maybe Son to get on the score sheet. So yeah, I could be completely wrong and Nottingham Forest will end up beating us. But we'll see how it goes. And as normal, I'll see you guys at half time. Yes, people. It's half time at Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest 0, Tottenham 1. Sorry for the pauses. I was trying to put the volume down a bit. Yeah, good half of football from both sides. It was a bit blotchy in some cases, but in the round, both teams trying to win. Well, trying to establish a style. Nottingham Forest made it pretty obvious what they were trying to do. They had Alanga and Gibbs-White up front, trying to pick us off for the counter-attack, and they had a couple of opportunities. Alanga, if he puts his chance away, they checked that on VAR, could have been onside. They did start getting a little bit tasty and putting some challenges in towards the middle of the first half, which sent panic stations back at our defence. But out of anybody in the defence that you're not expecting to be rock solid, it was Ben Davies. Solid. I was about to. I made a note to put on the video to say that why is he not engaging, especially when Alanga was put through. But then ever since that, it's like he was listening to me because he was winning tackles, he was winning headers, and proving that sometimes he can be a good squad player. Generally, I don't believe he is, but maybe Ange is another one to improve him. Apart from that, everybody else has been reasonably solid. I think the one thing I'll criticise is our centre midfield pairing. A lot of the time they're putting us in the doghouse because they keep like playing risky passes, or like we saw Basuma do it against Man City the other day. There's times when they take that extra touch, or they just play a pass and don't have a second look up. So it's anything I can be critical of. Son should have took his chance. Shame that Brennan Johnson came off. He wasn't really doing anything in the game anyway, but he at least gave us some natural width, which I thought would stifle the game. But I'm glad that Kulusevski come out wide, because that was a picture of a cross for Richarlison, another person that won't do anything in the game. But if you're not going to do anything in games and score me 2 or 3 goals, I'd rather take that than you doing everything in the game and not scoring at all. So, he's on the best run that he's probably had since he's been at Spurs. I've never seen Richarlison on 3 goals in 2 games. And long may it continue. He's had a rough patch, had to go and seek help. Doesn't matter what team you play for. I'm happy for you I'd rather you be a happy person than a sad one. So if you're going to be a happy person and you're going to play for my club, even better. But yeah, we're doing okay. I think this Tottenham team always needs a second, because this could easily be another one of those games where we dominate, take the lead, looking more than comfortable, and then as soon as the opposition equalise, all of a sudden we find ourselves in the rough and tumble. But I think the only thing I worry about is Nottingham Forest have got actual strikers to come on. You know, they've got Chris Wood, they've got Origi. These are guys that are not on form and not really starting for Forest, especially with Onwenu. I can't even say his name. That is normally the striker. You know, the Steve Cooper's even ditched them on the bench for midfielders effectively, so they'll be chomping at the bit to come on. And as long as it's 1-0, they're the sort of guys that could score from a set piece or a mistake at the back. So I think we do need another, especially with the bench that we've got, because I can only see substitutions that can shore up our defence rather than expand our attack. So, you know, we look relatively comfortable. We had a 10-minute spell where, you know, especially when Brennan Johnson come off, it's like Brennan Johnson coming off gave the crowd a kick, and, you know, they had Yates going around kicking people. But I think we get a second goal here. It should be curtains, but end of the day, if you supported Tottenham as long as I have, you know full well it could go 3 and we end up messing it up. So, but yeah, if we can get this result, it'll be an important one for us, especially going into a relatively winnable but difficult game next week. And we need the points because, you know, you've got Brennan Johnson should come back next week, but you don't know. You've got a Doji out now for the next game, which is, as much as everyone would say you shouldn't be fouling with the next game up, that was not a booking. He literally shoulder barged him, maybe a bit too much, but a booking, ridiculous. So yeah, we're going to the second half, see how it goes. And yeah, hopefully we get the win and I can enjoy the rest of my Friday night. See you lot at full time. Gimme a ginger from Sweden. Don't mess about. The final score at the City Ground is Nottingham Forest 0, Tottenham 2. With my beautiful singing voice, you can tell who was my guy for this game. To be honest, it was edging towards Ben Davies somehow. Like, I've always been critical of that guy, but Kulusevski was ridiculous, and he's been ridiculous for the last couple of months. Even when we've been losing games, he's been arguably our best player. We're starting to see the Kulusevski that we had in the first 6 months with him under Conte. Constantly a thorn in Nottingham Forest defence. You know, Forest are in bad form, so there's going to be a lot of players that are out of form, let's say, in the Premier League that could turn up on Forest and put themselves back in there. But he was solid today. You know, strength, creativity. He's holding up the ball. You know, I like him in the number 10, but even out there on the right, he was just causing problems. I think, in football, confidence is massive. You know, not even just football, in life. You know, if I'm not confident in the job that I'm doing, then I'm probably going to have a bad day at work. But then if I'm confident, I'm going to be good in it. It's just how it goes. And he was solid today. Ben Davies was solid. He gets another shout out. Bar them two, everybody was pretty much a 6 or 7 out of 10. I wouldn't say anybody was poor, but at the same time, I wouldn't say anybody was great apart from them two. Again, I'm going to go on to a negative. Bissouma, he's got that in him. You know, he's got that. For me, it's as if, like, sometimes he gets bored and wants to, make something of nothing. You know, there's times where he'll get bored and try and take on 3 players and then he costs us the game against City. There's times where he'll just go into a challenge aggressively when there's no need. You know, that challenge there was no need for him to be that high. If that was a little bit lower down, might get away with the booking. But when you're kicking his thighs, it's I haven't really got a case for an argument. It's a sending off. You know, if it was the other way around, I'd be calling for it. And he misses Everton. So, I'm going to say a negative. It would be the lack of discipline. You know, Bissouma gets sent off. Son gets a needless booking. Udogie gets a needless booking. You know, whenever we're doing well, this is still something that concerns me because it's bad enough that we've got an injury crisis. But then if people are going to start missing games for needless challenges, we're going to be proper relying on under-18 players at this rate, just because you can't rein in the discipline. You know, we're always worried about Romero, but the one game he doesn't get booked, Basuma does. You know, Basuma, in the grand scheme of things, it probably was a red card, but then it's the consistency in VAR with the officials anyway is bonkers, really, because how is Romero getting away with what happened last game, and Basuma's getting sent off quite confidently in that scenario? It's just, again, it's not the technology, it's the people that are using it. But it's a much needed win. You know, we could have easily turned up Friday night in the lights up in Nottingham, lost that game, and I don't want to watch football for the weekend. But you know, we win the game, go level on points with City. And we just need to keep pushing on. It's going to be a difficult one next week against Everton. It would have been difficult anyway because they're one of the most informed sides in the Premier League. But with no Basuma, no Adoji, you know, I'm looking at it thinking, is it Emerson Royal at fullback? Possibly. But, you know, we'll take each game as it comes. And, you know, when you're looking at the grand scheme of things, you needed to win that because you got Newcastle that are in a bit of a slump. We're just coming out of ours. You know, if United get dipped by Liverpool, which I think they will, all of a sudden there's a gap between the sort of top four, top five and the rest of them. And if Tottenham want to get into the Champions League, let's say, that's you know, at the beginning of the season I was looking at it as a miracle, but it looks like a possibility as long as we win game by game. And you know, I'm not going to sit there and say we're in a title race, but at the minute we're 4 points off top, and what you need to do is keep aiming for the top, because if you aim for the top and fail, that's how you land in the Champions League position. So yeah, good win all round. Happy for Richarlison to get a goal. Kulusevski unplayable. Ben Davies, you know, he does have 1 in 5 games where he surprises me, and you've got to take his hat off to him. You know, he's stuck himself in a position where we thought it was game over, with Eric Dyer having to play. But he's come in and slotted in, and he's not, you know, he's not Mickey van der Ven, but he's doing the job. So yeah, can't really complain. I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of my evening. And yeah, that's how it goes. Happy Friday, guys. Come on, you Spurs.